The picture on the screen, this is actually on the campus of the capital of Sacramento there, capital of California, I should say. And these beautiful fruit are growing in a tree just off to the east of the Capitol building, and we were just there walking through the grounds on a sunny day, and Sheree was just snapping pictures, and it just makes you want to reach up there and pick one of those, peel it and eat it, which, by the way, we did not do. We just enjoyed looking at them, but they're very lovely, so thank you, Sheree. Also, at the end of this presentation is one of my favorite pictures she's taken. Of course, I've only used my favorite pictures so far, so just keeping that in mind, I get the privilege of that selection. So what I'm going to do is, before I go on to this next slide, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to take you on a journey through the entire book of Revelation. So when you see this graph the first time, I'm just going to let you look at it and let it kind of soak in. It's essentially the entire book. Then I'm going to explain to you why I made this particular graph. Chart. I want you to see it. I want you to see the entire book from front to back, because it is essential for you to have a grasp of the whole book when we start the trumpets, which will be our next presentation. Okay, so here we go. Our title, God's Thoughts, God's Word, God is on your side. The book of Revelation is a book that tells you that today, now. And we're going to do an overview. So here it is. Here's the graph. On the top it says the 7 sanctuary visions of Revelation. There are 7 numbers on the screen. Each one of them takes you to a particular location of the sanctuary, or to Jesus as a priest ministering for the sanctuary. Okay? And 1 and 7 are on the earth. So what the book of Revelation does is it begins with an earthly story, introducing it, as an introduction, I should say. And then it takes us up into the ascension and the inauguration of Christ, his intercession, the judgment, the cessation, the absence in the sanctuary, and then the return back to the earth. Here is the entire book. So if you follow what Jesus is doing in his ministry, then you can understand what's happening in regards to the prophecies that he is giving to John. Okay, so are you ready for the next slide? Here we go. So all I have on the screen right now for you are the things that happen on earth. These are the events, that should be, not event, but events taking place on the earth after Christ's ascension and during his intercession. Okay? So, number 1, we see Jesus wearing the garment of a priest. Chapters 1, 2, and 3, he is walking amongst the candlesticks. Chapter 1, 2, and 3, he is ministering to his church all the way down until the second coming. Then the seals are opened up, which is a story of the gospel going to the world and how evil comes against that gospel to attempt to bring it to a halt. The seals. We just talked about the saints being under the altar. That's chapters 6 and 7. You have another one coming up on chapter 7. That's one you have not seen yet. The 7 trumpets blow. That's chapters, I'm going to call the trumpets chapters 8 through 14, which is kind of a stretch, but you'll see why later. And these are the things that are happening on earth. Number 7 is the New Jerusalem. Christ and the Father return to the earth and create a new heavens and a new earth. So here is all of the earthly events that take place. Are you ready? Here we go to the next slide. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are up in the heavenly realm. All right? And we have in chapters 4 and 5 where Christ arrives as the lamb slain from the foundation, and he is at his own inauguration before the throne of God. That's number 2. Number 3, he is serving as our high priest, our intercessor in the heavenly realm. And what is happening while he is doing intercession? He is ministering to the church on earth. He has given us the story of the gospel going to the world, and we'll talk about the trumpets in our next session. And he's explaining, or God is revealing in the trumpets what is coming in regards to the judgment against Satan's kingdom. Okay? So you have number 4 is the judgment in Revelation 11:19, where we look into the most holy compartment, and then that is everything comes to a stop in chapter 15, and then things are completely ceased in Revelation 19:1-10. Nobody's there. How come? Well, now here's the slide we started with. Here's the whole book one more time. So what we're looking at here is that we have his intercession. We have his intercession. Notice it goes through the judgment, making his grace available. It goes through the plagues, making his grace available. But notice there is a close of probation, and there's no more intercession when Christ comes. His work as intercessor has been completed. So here is the entire book. You see what the book is telling you are the earthly events. So we go from earth up into the heavenly realm, and from the heavenly perspective, we see what is happening on earth. And the climax, the summary of the entire book is sin is eradicated from the universe. There is a new city, a new Jerusalem, and a new earth, and sin has been completely removed. There's no more death, no more sorrow. An eternity living in God's grace. Okay? That's the entire book in just a few minutes as the simplest overview I could get. But when I do the trumpets, if you notice that green bar almost at the bottom, I want you to realize that those trumpets are falling on the earth during Christ's intercession. And notice there's only one story of the trumpets going all the way through, because those trumpets speak to specific locations and events that happen, and you'll see why in our next presentation. And that brings me to Sherry's beautiful picture at the end. And what I love about this picture is I like the depth of it. I love how those berries come right to the forefront. The tones and the colors of those leaves are just astounding. Anyway, I thank Sherry for that. And I realize that I have one of her pictures on here without a signature. I'll probably get a reprimand, get written up, and shoot out by the photographer. And I look forward to that. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it is a helpful story for you. And I suppose that if you were to follow or go and contact us through Screaming Rock Media email, we could probably email you a copy of that chart just for fun if you want something more to study. All right, thank you. And we'll see you again in our next presentation.